Thank you, Peter. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We come now to one of the highlights of this year's programme, the keynote speech from this year's Energy Intelligence Petroleum Executive of the Year, the Chairman and Chief Executive of Total, Patrick Pouyanné. Now, many of you may recall that Patrick joined us last year to receive another prize on behalf of Total, the Leadership in New Energy Award. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, for Total since then, with some eye-catching deals, the Maersk Oil acquisition and the South Pars Phase 11 deal in Iran, to name but two. I'm sure everyone's very keen to hear what Patrick's thoughts are on what's been happening for Total in the oil business over the past 12 months and the path ahead. So please, Patrick, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I will not really make a speech. I will make some remarks. I made a long speech yesterday. It took me 9 hours to write my first speech in English, and I didn't find another 9 hours for this morning. Sorry for that. But I will, in fact, come back on what I think the message, because the question which was asked to me is what are the challenges for the oil and gas company like Total, and how do you react? I think, as I said, yes, we have to never forget that we are in a cyclical business, cyclical commodity business. And I do not believe at all in all the theory of peak oil, floors and ceilings. I just believe that this cyclicality, this volatility is inherent to our business. And okay, I could describe the price of oil. I'm not the most expert of it. We had Khaled Al-Faleh yesterday evening. He was probably better aware than mine. What I observe is, again, the huge volatility in this market. You know, I made some roadshows last week. It was quite easy because everybody was looking up from 55 to 60. So the question, what happens at 60? I would have done the same roadshows 45 days before, mid of August, when the price was at 44. I think I would have had more difficult answers. The question would be, what happens if it's at 40, you know? Just to tell you that it's not only the markets are volatile, but the mindsets are very volatile, you know, and according to what is on the screen. What I remark is fact in this market is that you have a very strong demand, very strong demand. It's another year above 1.5 million barrels of oil per day increase, maybe 1.6, 1.8. In fact, in 3 years, the demand will have grown by 5 million barrels of oil per day, 15 to 17. Twice quicker than the previous 2 years. So the demand is clearly supported by the low prices. There is no doubt when you go to emerging countries in Asia, everywhere in the world, and also in our developed countries. The second remark is that on the supply side, OPEC, non-OPEC agreement is working well. And the historic visit of King Salman to Moscow just, I think, cemented even stronger this agreement between the two of the three main producing countries of the world. I'm convinced that both of them are targeting a price above $60 per barrel. To spend a lot of time in Moscow, they really need it, and they are committed to that agreement. And the way that President Putin expressed his views just when the king was there was quite interesting, and not speaking about any exit, but more a smooth move together with Saudi Arabia. Of course, on the supply side, we know that today all our colleagues, US independents, are hedging as mad at $56 per barrel. So we'll probably see again a wave of investments in the US shale oil, no doubt about it. Then it's a question, the efficiency has been improved clearly in terms of drilling technologies and the capacities. Then it's a question also, of course, of geology to see exactly how much will be the increase next year. At least probably 700,000 barrels per day, but maybe more, we'll see that. So we have some trends there. I think the market are slowly rebalancing. We see the inventories going down, not yet at 3 billion barrels for the OECD ones, but not far. You know, time is important. I said in January 2017, right after the agreement, I was in Abu Dhabi in front of Khaled, that if really the OPEC and non-OPEC agreement has to be an effect, it should last at least 2 years. Khaled told me, don't tell me that. But in fact, I think I still reiterate that it's, you know, when you have 3-4 years of oversupply, it takes time to rebalance all the markets. Another interesting comment, I would say, it's we noticed all, but we were very surprised that when some events happened in June in the Middle East, there was no impact at all on the price. Very surprising. Generally, the oil price is reacting when you have some events. For the first time for a long time, recently, because of Kurdistan events, it seems that you have back some geopolitical elements in the market. I don't know if it's for long. Having said that, on our side, we continue to manage the company strongly at, I would say, $50 per barrel maximum, because our duty is to continue to have a strong control and on the break-even of our portfolio. This is what we control, and this is what is our duty if we want to face this cyclicality. A last comment about the market, which I think is of interest. We've done the statistics in Total, taking the Woodmac data, about the number of FIDs, oil FIDs, which were taken from 2010 to 2014 compared to 2015, 2017. From 2010 to 2014, there was an average per year of 35 FIDs of fields more than 50 million barrels of oil, which were representing a capacity of 2.5 million barrels of oil per day, 35, 2.5. Since 2015, 2017, it's 12 per year, representing only 1 billion barrels of oil per day. One could tell me that 2.5 was maybe too high because we had an oversupply at the end, but 1 is probably not enough. And that made me thinking, and it's different, not very anticipated, that post-2020 somewhere will face an issue with this lower number of FIDs, because even if suddenly we decide to do it, you know, in this industry, except in conventional, where you have only to drill, or what we call short-term cycles, infill wells that we have all in our portfolio, it takes time before to bring new capacities to production. So in front of all that, I had delivered here 4 aspects, 4 recipes to face these challenges, this cyclicality. The first one I just commented: be excellent on what you control. I've got to control. It requires strong discipline, safety first, costs, availability, capital allocation. In Total, on costs, we have been able to drive down our costs from $10 per barrel to $5.5 per barrel, under the leadership of Arnaud Brouillac in upstream. And we continue to drive down these costs. 2/3 is structural, 1/3 has been given to us by the market. On capital allocation, you have to be selective, and we landed now to what I call the sustainable level of CapEx, which will allow us to continue to grow. It's around $13–15 billion of organic CapEx for Total, excluding any M&A. And I think we are there in that range, and with that range, we have explained that it's possible to be disciplined on capital intensity and to grow. There is no antagonism there. We have announced recently that we will continue our 5% per year growth from 2014 down to from 2016 until 2022. So it's possible to manage this business by being disciplined but also ambitious. And why? Because it's a second lesson. Because what is important is to be able to act countercyclically. It took us 2 years, because there is one condition to do that, is to be able to manage a balance. It took us 2 years to manage to bring our balance sheet back to be able to seize opportunities in the market. There are two sorts of opportunities today. First, to sanction new projects, because again, the costs of the industry are low, and if we are able to sanction new projects, these projects will be put in our portfolio at a low capex level, and they will be there, and this will be the next wave of growth with a high profitability. So that's the first point. We have moved forward on 3 projects. We will soon, I think, sanction Libra in Brazil, which will be the demonstration that you can have a deep water profitable project. It's a giant project, but I think we are going through various hurdles there, including the local content issue, thanks to the support of the Brazilian government. And you know, we have met a big deal in Brazil, and I'm encouraged by all the pragmatism of the authorities in that country, and will be very happy to sanction Libra in this type of environment. The second, invest, and then access to resources. It's really a time where access to resource is not so complex today, because the business model of major companies like Total offer us a possibility to move, while some competitors have more constraints. We have been quite successful. We managed to have access in the last 30 months to 5 billion barrels of resource. A lot in the Middle East, but this is where you find the low-cost resource, you know, it's just the case. So in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, in Iran. But also in the North Sea with the Maersk oil deal. Because there, this deal, just to come back on it and the rationale, there are 2 or 3 big rationale behind it. The first one, it offers us a unique opportunity to build in the North Sea the second player, 500,000 barrels per day of operated production. And so their size has an effect on bringing down our break-even, because we will be able to amortize our fixed costs on a larger base of production. Yes, it goes with synergies, for sure, but I think because there is still a long future for North Sea, which is, and this is the second argument for me, which is our garden. You know, historically, Total has been built in North Sea, and most of us have spent some time to be trained there. So I'm fully convinced and comfortable that our teams will be able to deliver this good combination between Total and Maersk Oil. Another good reason to make that deal is that it brings fresh blood to the company. In fact, we are hiring a lot of people that are already trained, not young ones, but already trained. And we know that after the last 3 years, where we have been quite frugal in recruitment, we need that if we want to restart a new wave of investments. So yes, access to resource is possible at a very low cost. The average of the 5 billion barrels of oil reserves that we have access is less than $3 per barrel. So these are the foundation for the future growth. I just speak about size, and the more I spend my time in this industry, the more I'm convinced that Thierry Desmarais was very right when he built Total as a major company, because size matters in that business. It helps us a lot to absorb the low cycle through our balance sheet. It's helping us a lot to amortize our fixed costs on larger production base. It's also helped us a lot, by the way, to take some risks, because to spread any single risk across a large portfolio. And if somebody thinks we are too bold to go to Iran, my answer is that not. If you look to taking such an opportunity for $1 billion exposure when I have $150 billion of assets, the risk is not so big from the top of the company. It's much more a superb opportunity. By the way, you know, you never create opportunity without taking risks. It's a question of glass half full or half empty. And the last point I raised yesterday, and on which I would like to comment, is be integrated along the value chain. It's true for oil. You know, today in the company, if we have been resilient and be able to face the volatility, it's largely due to our refining, petrochemicals, and marketing business. They provide us $4 billion of free cash flow every year, which will grow to 5.5. Why? Because we are building patiently, not huge aggressive strategy, but on integrated platform, on petrochemicals, in particular of the US, but also on retail and marketing, which are non-cyclical business. So these businesses are really providing some good cash, and I'm convinced that we need to develop the same strategy to gas. And this comes, as I've seen that your conference yesterday became gas and money. I want to contribute to the gas aspect of your conference. We should say, and I think that when you think to the future, when you think to the climate change challenge, when you look to the future supply mix of energy, gas has potentially a big role to play. But it will not come like that, you know, because gas, if the production of gas is lower than oil today, there are good reasons. The liquidity is not the same. The logistics are heavier. The cost at the end of the day is more expensive. But gas is not competing with oil. Gas is competing with coal. And on that, I think that we must realize, all of us, that we need to absolutely continue to work to lower the cost of the gas chain, from production, liquefaction, transportation, regasification, down to the end. It's fundamental. If we really want that the gas will take its place against, in particular, coal, because, as I said yesterday, for the consumer, what matters most is the price first. And there are plenty of technologies there, and we must be strong believers in technologies which will help to put that gas in that position. On the upstream, first, of course, it's a question of selecting the right gas reserves, the lowest cost, possible cost. And frankly, on this earth, you have plenty of gas everywhere. I'm not fully convinced you must go in deep water gas to find the lowest cost, the lowest molecule cost of molecule of gas. You have enough everywhere to do that. The second condition on liquefaction, we are working hard on modularization of the plants. We've seen, for example, we built a first plant in Yamal LNG onshore. The next generation of it will be on barge. We think we can bring costs down by more than 25%. So if we think seriously to how can we drive costs down, there are plenty of technologies. It's also true on the logistics part, the transportation cost. Today, we can work on efficiency on the LNG tankers. We can also work, like traders, on optimizing all the way we manage this fleet. We're not convinced that the tanker should go from Norway to Australia. We've done that recently. Maybe it could have been a little better to split some routes or to make some trades between tankers. So there is plenty of things to think of subjects, opportunities to try to deliver that. It's also true of the regas terminal. The FSRU's technology is helping us a lot. And gas, we also, I'm convinced, need to participate to the demand, to growing the demand. At the end, gas is either heating or power. And this is why, when you look and you listen to the strategy of Total, we speak about power. It's a matter first of gas to power, to deliver, to grow the demand for gas by potentially participating in minority shares to some power plants, gas-fired power plants, if we can drive the supply of LNG, the supply of gas up in the interest of Total. That's important, and I think it's a strong message. Yes, we must advocate for gas. Nobody will do it for us. But first, what the industry has to do is to drive the cost down of the value chain. If we do that, we can also advocate for CO2. But CO2 pricing will not be the remedy to the difference of, I would say, competitiveness between coal and gas. Let's first think to our duty. So I would like to conclude this introduction, and then I will answer to the question by just repeating that what I said yesterday, that yes, it's true. Today, we are considered as an industry of the past by some people, but it's not an industry of the past at all. We today provide 60% of the world energy requirements. And I'm convinced we must be more vocal about it. We must remind that to the world. It's a very serious matter. Many wish for a quick revolutionary role reversal between the oil and gas industry and renewables and new electric industry. But undue waste and overly ideological approach could bring great economic and social damage to our 6 billion customers today and 9 billion tomorrow. We at Total embrace both the oil and gas on one side and the new energy sectors on the other side. And then, better than anyone, we know what is a responsible pace of momentum for affordable, reliable, and clean energy. This is what the world requires to us. This is our mission. And yes, we can embark in new energies, and we must, as an industry, continue to be proud, passionate, to speak about our role in creating global prosperity. We must talk boldly about the role of gas in cleaning up the world carbon and urban smoke problems by quickly and affordably displacing coal. You all know, I hope, that if we were able in that world to shift all the coal-fired power plant in gas-fired power plant, we will be immediately on the 2-degree roadmap. The solution is not so complex. Of course, it's a dream, but it's there. And we should also talk confidently, imaginatively about our role in developing new renewable and electrifying technology that will be more reliable, scalable, and affordable than today. This is our contribution. But when you think to the debate about the electric vehicles, if you think to what are the substitutes to oil in transportation, it's gas and it's power. And to make power, you need gas. So this is our future. This is why Total today is putting forward this strategy to be integrating along the gas value chain. And then you have the answer to what the people think that we are an industry of the past. We are not at all. We will be the industry of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for those thoughts on Total's strategy.
By the way, I will come back next year only if you give me another prize. Huh?
Well, I couldn't.
A prize every year, so you need to invent another one.
I couldn't possibly comment on how that's going to work. I just wanted to. I mean, you got into the sort of renewable energy sort of strategy at the end there, and I wanted to begin just by asking you about something you said in your speech last night at the PY Award dinner. I'm sure many other people heard that speech as well. You talked about a decision at Total to become a responsible energy major. And I wanted to ask you, how do you define a responsible energy major?
Well, I mean, it's a long question. I could be philosophical about it. I think fundamentally the idea is that, yes, we are an oil and gas company, and as I said in the speech, our first mission is to deliver energy that the world requires, but I use three words: reliable, affordable, and clean. And being responsible is to, what we say, integrate this 2-degree challenge into our strategy, which is not so complex because, in fact, when you speak about climate change for us, it's an evolution of our markets. So it's just trying to think the evolution of our markets, which is our duty in any industry, you know. Mm-hmm. And when you look to the 2-degree scenario of the International Energy Agency, it's not frightening to take it on board. It's a matter, yes, that's true, but it's difficult to say, but maybe in 2040 we will have less oil than today, even if we don't see exactly which technology. But you know, in terms of technology, as I said yesterday, 20 years is a very long time. Many things could happen in our industry because we are working hard to make this technology evolving. Yes, you have more gas, which, as I said, is really a field where to grow. And you have the new energies. Let's not oppose it, but let's work on it. Let's work also on CCUS, like we have decided to embark with all my colleagues of the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, because if we want the neutrality, we need to work on it. And we are, honestly, I'm happy that we have joined forces in Norway with, I see my friend Eldar there, with Statoil and Shell on the first large-scale commercial not pilot, just a commercial business on CO2 storage, I think, and the three companies are united their efforts, and I think we have to work on this type of thing. So being responsible, that means, and it's not greenwashing at all, it's just investing, putting, in fact, you know, what we do is we have generating $20 billion per year of cash, and we allocate 500 to 1 billion to that steadily, and we have to be committed in order to show to the world that we are taking our share of the burden, and it's more opportunities than burden, by the way.
So within that definition, if you like, are there now some forms of fossil fuel investment that you consider irresponsible?
I think, I mean, again, I perfectly accept, so I will not criticize my peers, I hate that, you know, I perfectly accept that some companies could have different views about the future. It's a choice. But for me, in particular on oil, I want to position the oil portfolio of Total on what I call low break-even oil or low-cost oil. And I think there is plenty of low-cost oil on Earth, so I will not go to explore for oil in Arctic. I think it's not worthwhile to spend huge amount of money for marginal cost oil, which, by the way, and you know, if you think of that, it's not only a question of climate and evolution of market, it's also a question of answer to the cyclicality of our business. So positioning ourselves on things which are very expensive, you have to be careful, because then When the price is going down, you are just have to cry, you know, and nothing to wait. So it's a lesson from all that. So I think, yeah, there are parts going to explore the last drop of oil makes for me little sense. Because, by the way, and we have demonstrated that, you can have access. Of course, you have to go to regions like the Middle East, like Russia, where you find these low-cost resources. But this is where it takes place. And if we have one role to play is to make that bridge between these countries and Europe and Asia consumers, you know. It's our job. This is why we are useful to the society there. So it's also part of responsibility.
You mentioned last night, I asked that question because you mentioned a couple of areas of investment, oil sands and coal bed methane-backed LNG as being sort of bad ideas for capital allocation, in your opinion. You also grouped shale in there, and obviously this is something that a number of your peers are pursuing. Why is Total so sort of uninterested in shale investment?
You are terrible, the journalist. You take 2 words out of the full sentence. I said yesterday, for Total, not for others. For Total, it was not a good idea to put a capital allocation to this type because these were filling the gaps. We had no added value, no synergies, and we were just financial investors, and it happened to be, for me, mistakes. Because, again, our duty is to the way we allocate capital where we can create more added value, when we can create more reserves. So I'm much more convinced by the Maersk oil deal than financing or acquiring a small company in the US shale, where, yes, I will be a financial investor, but I have no synergy, I have no added value. So I don't say that is a mistake in terms of, no, I said exactly the contrary. I said that on the US, it has been one of the largest, the discovery of the last 10 years, I would say, these unconventionals, which have changed the market. So I fully recognize that. I fully recognize there is efficiency there. Okay, that's good. You have another source of gas and oil, and by the way, the strategy of Total is clearly to benefit on it from the downstream point of view. You know, we are investing in the US unconventional, not to produce it, because I think others can produce it better than us, and there are other places where my E&P division will create more value. But we are using the US and the feedstock, you know, gas, huge amount of gas, cheap feedstock, cheap energy. So let's develop petrochemicals, let's develop LNG in the US. This is obvious to me. So no, I'm a fan of unconventional, but not as an E&P, more as a downstreamers. And again, no problem. So when we invested 5 years or no, 7 years ago in the first deal with Chesapeake, it was poor. We threw $2.5 billion through the window. The second deal was excellent. We buy for $500 million, $7.5 billion of assets. That was very good, with cheap balance. You know, sometimes you take mistakes, sometimes you draw lessons. So if I have an opportunity for $500 million in US shale, maybe I will come, you know, you never know. It's a question of value and cost of access. But again, what I said yesterday is I strongly believe that when you want to develop a company and to grow it, you play to your strength, and it's much better to reach our objectives.
Okay, I'm aware we're a little short of time here, but I wanted to ask one other question with respect to Iran. We had Dr. Zamaniniyeh here yesterday talking about the outlook for Iran, particularly in light of some of the geopolitical issues the country is dealing with at the moment. You signed for South Pass Phase 11. He mentioned there are a number of companies looking at other deals in Iran. Are you looking at further investment there given the current climate, or how are you going to proceed? That's
a good question, this one. Better than the one, what do you do if Donald Trump...
I'm so pleased you think so.
No, I mean, to be clear, for the time being, you know, we are bold, we are pioneer in Iran, we are committed, but we go step by step. And it's important, you know. So we have signed, and I'm very proud to have signed that agreement on South Pass 11. We were right to do that, and I can tell you, for reputation of our company, not only in Iran but outside of Iran, it gave us a clear boost. We have demonstrated that we can be the right partner when times are difficult, and it's very important for the leaders of many countries in that world. Having said that, you know, I'm reading newspapers every morning. I see what happens on the US side. I know also what Russian, Chinese, and Russians think. we will see, you know, we have to look to the fact. At the end of the day, we are governed by laws, you know, and we observe the laws. I mean, nobody knows exactly what the Congress will decide, what will be, they will reinforce sanction, not reinforce, what will be the content. The devil is in the detail, you know. Today we know that we signed a contract because we are able to do it without no US persons being involved. It's better to be a European company, not to have too many US persons, and no US dollars. Okay, if the framework changes, we'll see what we have to decide. But let's be clear, if we can legally do and execute a contract, we will execute that contract. It's very clear. To go beyond that, that's true that, you know, when you are pioneer, you open huge opportunities to us. Mm-hmm. But let's first see if we can do the first one, you know, otherwise, why should I spend too much time on betting on the next one? But we have been clear that Iran is a country where we would like to be able to develop petrochemicals, working for the domestic economy. I would just make a remark about the deal we've done. It's a deal done for domestic gas, mm-hmm. to develop the domestic economy in Iran. And I think it was really the spirit of the agreement which was signed. It's not bringing additional export revenues to Iran, it's developing domestic economy, which is also important. So yes, of course, we have opportunities, but we'll see what will be decided by the governments.
Okay. I think we should see if we can get maybe one question in. I know we're a little short of time here. Any questions from the floor? Wait for a microphone to get to you, and then please give your name and affiliation. We have a question here.
Yes, Philippe Rose, Energy Intelligence. You mentioned new energy, you mentioned technologies. There's one technology that's been generating quite some excitement in the industry lately, which is offshore wind. It's been creating excitement among some of your competitors. What's your...
We will ask that to Eldar, he's a fan of it. You know, you cannot do everything. We made a move recently, an important move. Huh? We were concentrated on solar. We decided to invest in a company which is making wind and solar power plants, Iran-Eri, and which we have taken minority share with the objective to acquire it in 5 years if they develop their business plan. The wind offshore, again, you know, let's be clear, the way I'm working, when I see some of our competitors doing something, I always ask myself, okay, what is the rationale behind it? My teams tell me it's not true. If they do that, I respect the fact that they are probably smart ideas. So we cannot do everything at the same time. You know, we have to be a little selective, otherwise we spread our money. I don't want to become again a R&D new energy company. You know, we spend, in the year 2000, we were spending a lot of money in R&Ds about plenty of technologies. I prefer to concentrate on some few ideas. The fundamental doubt that we had about it, just to answer to your question, because it was historically the obvious choice. We are an offshore company, let's go making offshore renewable power. You know, it's and where we had a doubt, but we have to revisit maybe that. It's about not the investment cost, but the maintenance cost. One of the beauty of renewable when you have an onshore plant is that the cost of maintenance, once you have invested, is almost nil. So you have invested and you have almost a marginal cost of zero. Offshore, and it's back to what is the availability of the turbines and all the system, it's more costly. You know, we know what it means to bring people offshore and if you have your windmills being down, so this is the fundamental reason why we did not embark in that. But again, as I said yesterday, I repeat it today, I know that technology evolves, that people are making progress, and so when I observe that some of my peers are doing that, we need to ask questions. But today it's not on the plate. We have already a lot of assets in renewables. So let's develop them patiently, but in order to make some profits.
Okay, I think we're going to have
another one there.
Okay, let's try and squeeze one more question in, please. The gentleman here.
Hi, Patrick. My name is Ted Paulus. I'm part of the fresh blood of Maersk Oil that's going to be potentially infused into
welcome, then.
You talked about...
It depends on the question.
Sorry? You talked about success factors being the things that we can control in volatile environments, so safety, capital discipline, and resource access. And you kind of touched on Total's unique operating model, giving you the ability to move where other companies have constraints. I was just hoping you could kind of elaborate a bit more on what exactly that kind of special sauce is, what the elements of that business model are that allow you to access resources where other companies cannot.
J'ai pas entendu. Sorry, there was some echo, and I'll catch the question. You understand the question?
Yes, it was about what is the sort of secret of the Total business model that allows you to access resources in.
There is no secret. It's just the fact that, again, I think the industry has changed a lot from access to resources. When the price is high, during 10 years at $100 per barrel, our life was difficult because we have many competitors. The national companies were not really open to give access to resource. An inefficiency of $2-3 per barrel was not very important. The independents, conventional independents, were quite aggressive. And so the majors, I remember, I've done probably a speech here explaining that our mission was to go to the high technological barrels. And we did that. We were speaking like that because it was the only way to have access to resource and to renew resources every year. Today, the world has completely changed. So today, you have plenty of opportunities, and we play to our strengths. And one of the strengths is the Middle East. And it is clear that the decision on ADCO, and then, sorry for Musk, but you are back to the company, the Al Shane opportunity, I can tell you, I said to my colleague, this one is for us. And sometimes when you have a long history somewhere, you understand even the fiscal terms that you need to put in a paper, And then Iran. So I think it's a question of, or Petrobras, the Petrobras deal, it's obvious. You have a company, a huge national company with financial difficulties. We have plenty of giant deepwater field. Deepwater is our field of competence. So then it's a matter of going, traveling, going to the country, not working by mail, not by phone, showing our determination and our capacities, bringing our teams. In Brazil, I spent half a day to visit the R&D center and to speak technology with them. I think it's very important. So if there is one secret, is maybe to be local, even if we are a global company. Yes, we have a global expertise, but the way we act is to be local. It takes a lot of time to mobilize people. And so you can be creative and imaginative if you take it like that. So, and then, it's just opening the newspaper to see that Musk is to sell. So you take a plane and you visit your CEO. That's all.
Okay, thank you for that, Patrick. That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. Please join me in thanking our PEI winner of this year, Patrick Pouyanné, for joining us.